This is a really unique video, and it's really a sign. It's really a sign of the times. And this particular video, we're going to look at the new. I'm going to say eating styles. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit in here about all kinds of. I don't really want to say diets, because really what's happening is in our society, a lot of people have figured out what's healthy, what's not healthy. So when we look at this aspect of class, and we look at where we're at in today's society, we felt like that this was a major component to add to the class. The standards of the class touch on this a little bit, but we thought we'd make a separate video on all the different, like I say, I use the word diets. It's really different eating styles and different ideas that we have as far as eating in today's society. So we started out with prehistoric man. Okay, so prehistoric man went out, and what did he do? Prehistoric man went out and he hunted all his food, and he cooked it over a fire. He didn't have, and the only seasonings he had, they might go out and they might find a riverbed that was dried up. They might have scraped out, the pioneers might have scraped out the salt. Okay, so basically, we are designed, okay, in our digestive system and the way our intestines and our stomach and the way we break things down and the way that we use the nutrients from our food is designed for what we actually had before us, okay? So that being said, we kind of walk back a little bit. Well, now let's walk into today, okay? So, where do we do our hunting? Where do we do our foraging? Foraging means where do we go to gather food? Well, now you might have a garden, okay, but chances are you go to Walmart or you go to Albertsons or Kroger or some grocery store and do your foraging, okay? So what's happened is we thought, okay, that there was a lot of good things that we did, okay, a lot of preservatives, a lot of adding for taste, a lot of different things. And now, as we begin to watch that particular eating style go, I'm not here today to say anything is particularly good, bad, or indifferent. I just want to explain it, okay? So what we're looking at is we're just trying to say, okay, here's where we're at, and here's what this means, and here's what this means, and here's the idea behind it. So given the idea that now we're eating a lot of quote-unquote processed foods, what does processed food mean? Processed foods means that somebody else made that food for us, okay? When we go out to eat, okay, we eat a lot of processed foods because it's made for us. But one of the things that we have to do when you go to a salad bar, okay, and you look at that salad bar, and there's bananas on there, and there's all these different things, and you're like, oh, I cut those up at home, bananas, avocados, whatever. And then you go, oh, but after 2 hours they turn brown. Well, I go to the salad bar and I say, hey, well, when did you put these out? Oh, we put those out at 9 o'clock this morning, and here it is 5 o'clock this evening, and they're not brown at all. And you're like, oh, well, what's the deal? Preservatives. So we didn't think preservatives were all that bad until we began to watch this happen through generations of people. Well, the first thing that happened as we walk through this is some people begin to say, well, I'm not sure I want to eat red meat, okay? And there was different religious things earlier, and different people, even back in biblical days, red meat was an issue because a lot of red meat, the blood was drained, and they would have that for sacrifices and different things. So there was a lot of things about meat. Well, we found out that meat, okay, has a lot of cholesterol, but meat also has protein, things that we need for our body. Remember, in other units, proteins are what we use to grow new cells. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is, what does it mean to be vegetarian? Now, most people know that one because it's been around a while. Vegetarian means no meat, okay? Vegetarian means no meat. So if you have no meat, where do you get your proteins? You get your proteins from beans, cheese, dairy foods, eggs, that type of thing. So a vegetarian just eats no meat. Now we're going to walk, that was an easy one, okay? That was an easy one. Now we're going to walk into something called vegan, okay? So once again, in this unit, in this lesson that we're going to do in this video, we're going to talk about all the different ones right now and what they mean. We're not saying any of them are particularly good, particularly bad. We're just looking at the facts here. So what is vegan? Okay, now vegan is one step beyond, okay, vegan is one step beyond vegetarian. Vegan not only eats no meat, okay, vegan also eats no dairy, all right? So vegan is what we call a plant-based diet, okay, a plant-based diet. It excludes meat, it does not allow for fish, poultry, dairy, eggs. Vegan is plant-based. So everything that we have with vegan is plant-based. We're going to get our protein from beans, and anything that's plant-based is vegan. Now we're going to go into another one that's getting pretty common right now, and this one is called the keto diet. Okay. Now in keto, what's the idea? In keto is that we don't have carbs. All right. Now once again, carbohydrates are the short-term energy. All right. So carbohydrates are sugars, starches, that type of thing. The idea behind keto is that when you come in and you eat all these carbs, that you store up these carbs. So keto is basically trying to reduce carbs. Well, where are carbs? Carbs are found in sugars, in fruits. Okay. So what happens is keto becomes a high fat. Okay, a high fat content and a low carb. So it's kind of interesting. So somebody that does the keto diet actually eats a lot of fat, okay, and a lot of cholesterol, all right, but they don't eat many carbs. So what happens if we look at keto in terms of a weight reduction situation? What happens is the body begins to live off of the fat, and so it has no carbs. So what happens is the body begins to burn the fat that you eat, and then it begins to burn the fat that's in your body. Now, once again, whether it's vegetarian, vegan, keto, whatever we're talking about, we have to be careful that we have a balance, because we need all the different things, okay? We need the different food groups for different things. Now, what keto does, it is kind of interesting, because the original keto, it's fun to look at where these originated. Keto was originally developed way back in the 1920s. And it's really kind of interesting, because when you do your study of the history of keto, keto was developed in the 1920s for epilepsy patients. Patients that had epilepsy that would have seizures, okay? And these epileptic seizures were triggered by sugars. So the keto diet was actually developed, like I said, in the 1920s to remove all the sugar from these people and these kids and patients that had epilepsy to prevent the seizures. So it was really interesting. So they took the sugars out. So they said, okay, well, grapes have a lot of sugar and corn has a lot of sugar. So anything with high sugar, keto took out, because they found that the sugar, when it was out of the diet, helped the patients with epilepsy to not have these epileptic seizures. So now we look at modern day research. In order for it to be a keto diet, they say 70 to 80% of all your calories, everything you take in, has to come from fat. And they don't talk about saturated or unsaturated or trans. It's just fat. If you're on the keto diet, you can eat as much meat as you want. You can eat as much things with fat in it. 20% or less comes from protein. 5% or less comes from carbs. So that's, in order for it to be a keto diet, that's the regulations now for a keto diet. The problem that we have with a keto diet is we have to be really careful that we don't have muscle loss, because we're taking in such a small amount of protein. We have to be careful we don't have muscle loss. We also have to be careful if somebody has an injury, okay, you've been in a car accident or something's happened, because we have limited proteins, okay, and limited carbs in this. We have to get somebody off of the keto diet if their body is recuperating. We have a lot of cuts, a lot of abrasions. We're repairing cells, and somebody says, okay, the doctor says, okay, is there anything we need to know about? You said, yeah, I've been on the keto diet. He's going to be like, okay, we got to get you off of the keto diet while your body is repairing all these cells. In keto, the idea is that we just maintain cell repair, but we don't do a lot with injuries and that kind of thing. So that's keto. So keto's no carbs, no sugars, no fruits. Now, then we have something that, now this one This one actually kind of makes sense. Not that the others are good or bad. I said not gonna really have we're not really opinionated on these. This is just here's what we have. This one's called Whole 30. Now, Whole 30 goes back to the idea that anything that is natural, anything that we didn't add, anything that's natural is called Whole 30. So what Whole 30 did is they came in, they said, here's 30 different types of foods, okay, 30 variations here that are real foods, okay? So when we look at this, Whole 30 is no junk food, no fast food, nothing that's processed, no processed foods, okay? It's limited sugar, because when we talk about Whole 30, we're talking about things that would ordinarily be available when we go back to the days when we were getting original stuff that we were hunting, that we were raising, okay, and that type of thing. So one of the things that we've done in our diet is we've added sugar to a lot of things. Well, think about it. Sugar does come from the ground, okay, but we have different types of sugar. We have refined sugar, okay. The refined sugar that's broken down from the sugarcane plant, okay? Refined sugar, we're finding out, does not process in our body like natural sugar. So there's all kinds of sugar. There's sugar from different kind of plants, and so we've got a lot of sugar. So we even have something called alcohol sugar, and that's where the sugar actually forms. The hydrogens and the oxygens form an OH base, and we have alcohol sugar that's actually absorbed different into the body. Whole 30, we look at anything that's natural. Anything that's natural. Now, once again, there's a lot more to Whole 30. That's just the idea of when it originated. Okay. One of the things about Whole 30, when you do the research for Whole 30, is sometimes what a doctor might do. The original Whole 30 was originally designed to put somebody on Whole 30 to go to all natural foods. Okay. Take them off of things like sugars and processed foods and different types of things. And the idea behind Whole 30 is that we're eating all natural. And then as we introduce these other things back, then we see what effect those have on the body, because we've cleansed the body out of all the artificial things that we put in there. And then the Whole 30, meaning the pure and back to nature 30, then as we add those things back, then if somebody is having a particular medical issue, we can see what causes that. So we're going to stop with Whole 30 right now, and then we're going to go on to the next video and discuss a few more.